So here's the point. I would normally give the big hello and welcome, but I realized something the other day, Andrew. I think I ripped that off from TJ. I was listening to their show the other day, and he says that exact same thing. I don't know if that's a common thing or if it's subconsciously I've been doing that the whole time. So I don't know what to do with myself now. I used to record these intros, and now I'm getting all self conscious about it. I don't want to be ripping our friends off. But anyway, welcome to
What are we
episode
covering?
26, sir.
I think I've got the intro. I got it. We're covering Sting, top 10 painted wrestlers, your trip to wrestling,
Hey,
right?
you're giving away. Hey, you're giving things away a little early. We're supposed to hold on to that info till later. You're ruining it.
Okay, well, I've ruined it. And
Don't give up the
in
champ
the
of the week at least. Let's hold on to that one.
in, in the spirit of Steve Borden, born in Omaha, Nebraska, it's
Oh God.
showtime, folks.
Again for the last time. Oh, not this time. It's showtime for us, and hopefully not the last time. Who the hell knows? But
We
anyway,
could get canceled. I heard some fun news we're going to announce at the end of the show, and that could get us canceled. I mean, I have not been able to get us fired yet, but what we're going to roll out in the next month could finally get us fired.
but see here, anybody that's an Office fan knows this. When Michael Scott Paper Company was being offered a buyout by Dunder Mifflin, he said, "My company's worth nothing." And the people got nervous, and he goes, "I'll just create another company, and I'll create another company, and I'll create another company. I can create a new podcast tomorrow. It costs zero to do that. We can get fired. Who cares?"
We got a good announcement though at the end of the show, but Terry, let's
When?
get into the unagenda. What do we got this week
The
that I didn't
unagenda. The
spoil for us?
ungenda.
The
I don't
unagenda.
know. Let's see. Let's see what we got. First thing we got, there's not a lot of sports stories this week. Not a ton.
Thank
We
God.
did some baseball stuff last week. The spring training has started. We talked about that a little bit, but there's not much to say about baseball right now. The Orioles are doing well. The Dodgers are doing well. I have watched absolutely 0 seconds of spring training in baseball. What about yourself, sir?
Well, as a Yankees fan, newly
A
crowned,
Yankees
minted
fan. Ugh.
Yankees fan. And I like to say it just because it annoys you. I have been watching the Yankees on their spring training. It is my obligation now as a fan. Giancarlo has only been the designated hitter, but I guess that's not necessarily new. The Yankees have lost more games than they've won, but again, to your point, this is spring training. This is where we're finding out who's on the team and who's not on the team. All the
I'm
money
pretty
they
sure
paid
he's
him,
going to
and
be on the team. Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say all the money they've paid him and Judge and the rest of them, they're safe. I have a
Those
feeling
guys are
they're
like
all
number
safe.
74. Those are the guys you got to watch out for.
Exactly. So really, I think we've got another week or so, maybe two, before we really get into MLB.
Well,
Um,
I guess the
and,
season starts right at the end of March. I guess right around
okay,
Easter.
so I guess
I
we,
don't know if it's before or
I guess we
after.
got 30 days then thereabouts. So, but
Yeah, it takes a
whatever.
little while.
But it'll allow us to watch basketball and it allows us to watch other sports. I did
Hmm.
catch a couple of really good games. I want to mention. I know you were preoccupied, but I did watch Tennessee take down Bruce Pearl's Auburn team. I know I like Bruce Pearl. Don't get me wrong. It's not. This isn't an Alabama Auburn thing.
Oh,
Bruce was
Tennessee's
intense,
good. Yeah.
but Tennessee, and I know you watched the Alabama game, which I
Hmm.
missed or watched enough of it. Tennessee
Right.
played really good inside out. They played really good inside deep, and then they were forcing Auburn to try to play inside. And when they tried to play inside, it opened up those shooters. And so Tennessee took advantage of that. Of course, they were at home too,
Yeah.
but Auburn really didn't have a bad game. They just, it was one of those
Connect
things
is
where it
really
was
good
clear
though.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was clear Tennessee was just the better team that day.
They
They
are.
were
They're the
just
best
the
team in the
better team.
conference. Absolutely.
They got the better calls. I mean, they did. They got better calls, but they also hit the shots. They did better rebounding. They played a little bit better defense. But Auburn was gritty. I think Auburn's a good team for the tournament because they'll beat some teams. Um, I don't know how deep they'll go. I don't know what seed they'll get, because we're not there yet. But Auburn was gritty with Tennessee and was able to, and the SEC basketball. Whoever thought you'd see this many SEC teams ranked in the top 25 going in to the final 10 days of the season or
Yeah,
whatever it is? Yeah, we're getting ready to have the tournaments.
it
But
is
anyway,
March.
I thought they made things open up. But anyway, I know you were preoccupied. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the Alabama game, I didn't see it. What happened there with
So
Tennessee and
So
Alabama?
that was at Alabama. So that was a little. I mean, one thing I've got in the notes here is that home court advantage in college basketball is huge, and Alabama's
Oh,
good at home.
I can speak to that as a Nebraska fan.
Yeah,
They are. I think they've lost one game at home. Honestly, they've lost one game. All their losses come on the road.
right.
So
Auburn's the same
because
way,
Nebraska.
but I mean, Alabama's good at home too, better than they are on the road. Most teams are that way. A couple of teams in the SEC have been able to go on the road and win. That's Tennessee and Kentucky. Alabama and Auburn haven't been all that great on the road, but Alabama did really well against Dalton Connect against Tennessee. But Tennessee was just the better team, like you said. They have a
Yep.
good offense and a good defense. Alabama is probably the best offense in the league, but their defense isn't as good as a couple of other teams at the top. In Tennessee, Alabama had the lead in the second half, but Tennessee just pulled away.
Well, and that's kind of my thing is that with Auburn, and I think you just said it with Alabama. You can see Tennessee's just the better team. They
Yeah.
got the better athletes. They got the better chemistry. Rick Barnes is a fantastic coach. Came out of Texas. For those people that don't know, awesome basketball coach. Has a really nice career and has done it fairly quiet. He's done it quietly. But a really good basketball coach. This is the time of year, though, talking about basketball, where I get excited because we get towards March Madness. You finish the tournaments up. And of course, I live here in North Carolina. And
Oh
what
yeah,
is
you're
more
surrounded by it.
March Madness than Duke, Carolina, State, Virginia,
Wake Forest.
Wake Forest, even, yeah. Clemson. Clemson's got a decent basketball team this year, believe it or not. So Miami's had good teams in the past. Virginia Tech. I mean, so it's always fun to watch. I think North Carolina is far and away the best team in the ACC. And I don't see you have them even listed on our little thing here of who teams we're tracking.
Because I ain't
Which is
tracking.
interesting. Well, I see
No,
Houston,
I
Purdue,
just
UConn,
basically picked the
Marquette.
top five. I looked at the top 25, and this was the first handful. Tennessee, I
Yeah.
think, was number 4 last week. Houston, Purdue, UConn, Marquette, Arizona, Kansas. Those are the top several. And they're kind of spread out with different conferences there. So it could get pretty interesting.
My thing would be to tell people don't bet on Purdue because they have a chronic problem of going in hot and losing in the first or second round of the March Madness tournament. So nobody wants to see them in the Big Ten tournament, but I can promise you they're not a deep team in the tournament. I will say that loud and clear right now.
Well, they got those Big Ten
And as
refs in the conference tournament. They won't have those Big Ten refs when it comes to the NCAA tournament. Just saying.
who secondly, let's talk about a little college football update I saw. Caleb Williams not interested in doing what players have done when it comes to the draft. He was at the combine, but he was there in an interview. They bought him Sour Patch Kids, that sort of stuff. I'm going to tell you, buddy, I don't remember who it was, but I watched a lot of the combine yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And Caleb Williams, I saw the little interview where they gave him the Sour Patch Kids. That was cute. But there was a guy who was 6'8" and 5/8, 315. Second tallest guy, I guess, ever in the NFL draft. Big lineman. He ran a 5.0440. 5.04 at 6'8", almost 6'9", and 315. I'm not sure I want that man chasing me, Terry. I'm just saying, you know, that is a big man. That is a grown man. And the wide receiver from Texas, whose name escapes me, ran a 4.21 and broke the combine record.
I saw that.
Worthy 4.21 seconds in a 40-yard dash.
That's blazing. Blazing. That's almost as
Buddy,
fast as my time in high school.
Usain Bolt. Oh, my buddy Terry just froze. There he is. No, Usain
Well, you
Bolt.
froze
Yeah,
too, so
4.21.
that's how that.
Oh, good. Well, then we're in it together. What Terry and I were saying, 4.21 seconds is fast, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
In the words of one of our wrestling heroes, Arn Anderson, that is shitting and getting at 4.21. And who the hell's going to catch him? I mean, who's going to catch him in the NFL, Terry, at 4.21 seconds on a 40-yard dash? Little different when you get jammed at the line of scrimmage, though.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's not just about speed.
Exactly.
You know, there's guys that they look great at the combine, and then you're like, hey, you remember that guy a few years ago that was great at the combine? Yeah, he's on the practice squad over here. I think this guy will be a little bit better than that, but that happens sometimes.
One other note on the combine. I know we didn't have a lot in here about college football, but one other thing on the combine. Penix, left-handed gunslinger from Washington that we watched all year long. That man has a lot of damn power in that arm, Terry. It is scary. When he gets receivers that can get to a spot, he will be able to put the ball right where they are. And as long as he has an offensive line that's going to give him a little time, Michael Penix Jr. might be very dangerous in the NFL. Then again, like you said, he starts seeing them 350-pound linemen that can move. The game speeds up. So,
remember, we kept doubting him, and he kept proving us wrong.
Yeah, and he kept proving us wrong. But that left-handed throw, just like watching Tua, that left-handed throw is so unique. It doesn't even look right. Like when you're watching him throw the ball, it doesn't even look right. But mechanically, they have the advantage because of they're doing everything the opposite direction. So, it's interesting. But anyway, he looked really good, though. Penix looked very good in the combine, the parts of it I saw anyway.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of it. Been busy with other stuff, a lot of wrestling. A lot
of wrestling.
And if we're going to go ahead and bring that up, let me go ahead and describe. Give me the floor for a minute, sir. And I will describe my
Tell me about the
activities.
Tell me about the Von Braun Civic Center in beautiful Huntsville, Alabama.
Oh, man, you brought back the old school name. I had no clue that you knew that, sir.
I listen to Conrad Thompson, Von Braun Civic Center.
So, Dynamite, AEW Dynamite was at the Von Braun Center, as it's called now, in Huntsville on Wednesday night. It was the go-home edition of Dynamite before Sting's last match. So, let me tell you a little story of myself and my experience there. So I showed up a little bit late and found my seat. I was right on the rail, front row. I was side away from the hard cam, but not on the camera, not on the hard cam. I was kind of to the side there in the corner. So I was right there at the corner where people were going up the steps there. Best seat I've ever had. And I got to tell you, a little bit of extra money, and it was so much better than being on the third row. I've been on the second or third row before, but right there on the rail was 100 times better. Worth a little bit of extra dough. I'll do it again. Great seat, and I think it's time for a public apology here. So, Dave in the HSV.
I hate those.
I'm sorry, sir. I know that I've been going to these things by myself for a while. I waited until these things were available. I logged in. I said, hey, there's a seat on the front row. I'll get that. And I got it. And I didn't think about our buddy Dave. He's right here in Huntsville now. I knew this. I've been to his house multiple times. He reminded me of this when he texted me saying, "You're on the front row and you didn't invite me." And I'm like, I'm very sorry. Public apology here. I'll make it up to you. But he got some seats. He was with another buddy of his. So I'm sitting in my seat. He alerts me and he says, "Look to your right behind the crane." So I see him up there and he waves. And about that time, I decide, well, I found my seat. I'm going to go to the concession stand and I'm going to go to the bathroom. This will come up later, by the way. And about that time, the music hit and the ring announcer lady comes out. So the exact text that I sent Dave was, "I'm going to get up and go to the concession stand." And about a minute later, I said, "Never mind, hot chick." So she comes up and she announces everything. Man, that seat was great. I got fives from several wrestlers. They were right there. Will Ospreay just about took my whole arm off. He was so pumped up. It was crazy. My hands all red. It was great. So I did eventually. I decided I do need to get up and go to the bathroom. I need to go to the concession stand and eat something. It happened to be the women's match. That's not a dig at the women's wrestling. It was just my first opportunity. Two things happened while I got up though that are a problem. The first thing that happened is while I was up in the restroom, Chris Statlander picked Sky Blue up over her head and threw her out over the rail 5 feet from my seat, right on top of Cabana Man Dan, who was seated right there.
Yeah. Shout out to Cabana Man. We know him. Yeah.
That's right.
We know him.
And that was right next to me. And I missed that. I had to watch it back and see what happened. Because when I came back, the random guy next to me said, "Hey, man, you missed it. She threw her over." I'm like, "I don't know what you're even talking." So that's what happened there. And the second thing that happened is while I was up going to the restroom, going to the concession stand, and going to the bar, if we're going to be honest, they handed out stinger masks for later in the show. And here's a picture of that. And I'm sticking out like a sore thumb here. Look at everybody around me on the front row in their stinger masks. It looks great. And I'm standing there like an idiot, like I missed out on the whole thing. So they were setting up a spot with Darby Allin toward the end of the end of the show when Sting came out. And I did get a good shot of that. So you'll see that here. Boom. He was in a Sting mask. One of the Bucks. See, I purposely cannot tell either of these guys apart. They're the Young Bucks to me. I don't even call them the EVPs or whatever they call themselves now. They're the Young Bucks. I treat them both the same. One of them came over and thought he was messing with a fan. Darby takes the mask off and smacks him. I got a good shot of that. I was really proud of that.
Based on the hair, because Allison Faye is my platonic life partner, that looks like Nicholas Jackson.
Okay, if you say so, because I can't tell you which one's. Is the other one Matt? Matt is the smaller one?
Matthew Jackson's the older brother, but the one with more hair who's not balding.
Okay, well, if you say
but he also has darker hair and he's got light hair. Well, I mean, it's not important. There are a couple of sideshow, mud show, whatevers that Carnett would call them. But anyway, continue your story, Terry. I just wanted to let you know I think that's Nicholas Jackson.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. So, that happened, and then, Ric Flair came out. I don't have a picture of him. I mean, I got pictures of him, but I didn't show it here. We talked about a little bit that performance from from Flair was a little less than you'd love to see from Flair. I won't go into that too much and be critical because I will have some positives to say as we go forward with the show today. But after the
I
show,
won't.
after the show, and it was hard to tell when the show ended because things are happening, and then Sting grabs a mic, and I didn't know how much of this are the people at home seeing and how much of this is just for us. He talked about this was the second time that he had come down from the rafters. Oh yeah, I got a video of him coming down from the rafters. Excellent spot for that video. Tweeted it out, got a lot of retweets and comments. Some were jackasses replying to the number of people behind the hard cam, like anybody wants to buy those seats, But anyway, so Sting comes down after he talks to the Huntsville crowd. It's his last time in Huntsville for a show like that. He's giving people five, and he stops at me, grabs both of my hands, and he's staring at me. And this is Sting, and he can stare through you. And I'm just sensing that he's looking at me going, "You're the idiot that got up and didn't get the Sting mask." And all I could think to say to this guy was, "I love you, man." And then he lets go of my hands and he walks on. But fantastic night. I did have a little bit of hiccup, picked the wrong time to get up, but I was really glad to be there. If you're considering second or third row or front row is absolutely the way to go. You'll love it right there on the rail. But that was setting up what happened last night, Sunday night, which was AEW Revolution, sir. And that one I know that you watched, and I know you know a little bit about. So let's run that down.
Well, I watched the highlights of the Huntsville show, and I love the fact you were on TV so much representing our buddies, Pondwater Dave, Amy, and yes, that awful Justin Davis of the Pondwater David show. Yeah. Start talking wrestling with Pondwater Dave. I'll get the name of the damn show right.
You didn't put the end friend. You nailed it this time. Good job.
Well, no, I called it the Pondwater Dave show initially. Then I corrected myself in wrestling with Pondwater Dave. Anyway, yeah, Revolution. Let's talk about that. I watched it with our buddies at Ad Free Shows. Shout out to the team for putting that on. Lot of fun.
That was
lot of
hosted
personality.
by Pondwater Dave, right? Is that true?
It was a lot of personalities in that crowd, as you might imagine,
including your
wrestling, including mine, and I bring a lot to the table, as everybody knows. The 0 hour 12-man tag team match, because everybody knows the Acclaimed, as I'm representing right here. America loves the Acclaimed is what this shirt says, Terry.
Oh, okay. I got you.
And America does love the Acclaimed. 12 men in a match is a clusterfuck and a half. I don't care who's the wrestler.
It's ridiculous, yeah.
I love Max Caster and his new gimmick where he keeps screwing his raps up. So he's the best wrestler alive and the worst rapper ever, which is fantastic if you follow his social media. Of course, Jeff Jarrett's going to be Jeff Jarrett. The 6-man strut, all 6 of them doing, or 7 of them with Sanjay doing the Jackie Fargo strut. Ridiculous. Absolutely entertaining, though, because that's what it's about. And, then you had Jay White cut one of his promos. Remember, just reminding everybody who he is, because this is a guy that came into AEW with a lot of fanfare out of New Japan. Leader of the Bullet Club, New Japan heavyweight champion, beat Okada for the world title. So this is not a guy that doesn't know how to wrestle. And I'm sure we'll see Okada here shortly within the next, month or so on AEW television. We have friends
that hope so, that's for sure.
I'm one of them. I absolutely love Okada. But, White's reminding everybody, who the standard is. And I think at some point, obviously, you're going to see these 6 blow up and that sort of thing. But you were in Chicago. And there's a story there someday about Macho Man socks. But you saw the Acclaimed lose the tag team title to Swerve and Keith Lee. And
I remember the start of the match. I'll just say that.
But you remember how over they were was my point. and they're still some of the top merchandise sellers. They're gonna be figured in for a while. They're my guys. I love the Acclaimed. But 12 guys in a ring, I don't give a shit who it is. It's a lot. It's a lot. A 12-man
Yeah,
tag is
that's
a
more
lot.
than the original Survivor Series.
Correct. And it's really just too many.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I thought the match was fine. I
Yeah,
really did. I
for
thought the
what it
match was
was.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah. But you're trying to get 12 people a payday. That's what that
right.
ultimately comes down to.
Just have a
And
battle royal to start the show.
Jeff Jarrett, as we know, does double duty where he's booking that town.
Yeah,
He's the guy booking the building and the event, and he's also on the card. So I mean, you get it. But anyway, um, I thought the match was fine. I didn't really have an issue with the match. Um, I I think they try too hard sometimes to put everybody on the card. Not everybody can be on the card.
yeah.
But the good thing about that card was I think they went 5 hours total, so 7 to 12 ish. Um, and a lot of times, I mean, they got WrestleMania's 2 days, so what the hell? But
Well,
anyway,
it
what
did
did you
go a
think of
long
them?
time. Well, you said seven to
I went a
12
long
ish.
time.
So,
What did you
so
think of the
that
match? What
brings
did
up
you
my
think of the
story.
match?
Before we get to that, so in the last couple of pay-per-views, I've found it at a local movie theater. And for some
Mm-hmm.
reason, and I sent you this article, apparently AEW asked for more money from the movie theaters this time, and they said no. So it was not at any movie theaters. So I decided, do I get it at home or do I go to Dave and Buster's? I made
Right.
the horrible decision to go to Dave and Buster's. That's nothing against Dave and Buster's. It's just here's how that went down. So I show up at 6 o'clock because I'm in the central time zone, 6 o'clock for the 0 hour. And I get a seat and they've got it on the big projector TV. It's going good. So I order appetizer, drinks, and some food and stuff, and I start eating. And
Booze. He ordered booze.
I said
Sorry,
drinks,
go ahead.
and I eat, and then I'm like, I'm going to be sitting here a while. This waitress is going to want to make some money off this table, so I keep ordering stuff. And I order some dessert and a couple more drinks, and I'm there for a while. And it's still a long time before this pay-per-view's over. And I'm like, you can go ahead and go ahead and cash me out. So I pay, and I spent twice as much as it would have been to pay for the pay-per-view at home. I spent like $100 just on
Yeah,
me.
Dave and spoiler alert, fans, Dave and Buster's is not an inexpensive place to go.
Especially
It's
with three
not cheap.
alcoholic drinks, but I don't drink beer,
Yeah,
so there you go.
yeah.
But
I mean, they high gross your ass at the liquor on the liquor.
so I'm sitting there now, and it gets worse because now I'm like, well, I've already cashed out. I gave her a generous tip because I felt guilty. But now I'm sitting here, and there's an hour and a half left, and I've already paid. So now I'm feeling even worse. I don't want to go through that again. I'm just going to pay for it at home next time. So, that'll be the last time I go to Dave and Buster's by myself to watch a wrestling pay-per-view. But anyway, 12-man tag was what it is. It can't be. I mean, you pretty much set your ceiling. It's not going to be a fantastic
Yeah,
match. There were some good wrestlers there, but it's just there's so many involved. You can't do a whole lot with that. The women's tag match was decent. Nothing spectacular. But it did what it was supposed to do. It filled the 0 hour and it led to some better matches. And there were some good matches on this pay-per-view. Christian Cage,
absolutely.
I love what's going on with Christian Cage, this patriarch thing. I eat it up. It's like he's just he's gonna I don't know. He goes young guy to young guy to young guy trying to be their dad. It's just it is just the craziest thing. But I just love seeing him and his entourage and he's a good guy to fill that role. I mean, and I know he's a good wrestler. He's entertaining, and he beats Daniel Garcia. Took a little bit of interference for it to happen, a little distraction of the ref, but you know that's what's going to happen with these heels like this.
Couple of takeaways. Number one, there's a lot of trust in Christian to be working with your up and coming talent.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Garcia will be a big star in professional wrestling. May never see the WWE because of his size, and that's not meant to be, that guy, but
Right.
the WWE has passed on several people because of their size. And I had an interesting conversation we'll get to on the Zoom about one of these particular wrestlers and what they would do at WWE. But anyway, Christian is probably, when you think about everybody that's come over from WWE, particularly if you exclude FTR, probably, other than Moxley, I don't know you have a someone they've used better than Christian Cage.
Yeah.
An experienced wrestler. Now him and Edge are tied together, forever will be, and everybody always says it's Edge and Christian. No one ever says it's Christian and Edge. He's had a better AEW run than Edge. Now, granted, it's been longer, but they've used him better than they have used Edge. I think they've used him better than they've used Bryan Danielson. And Bryan Danielson's one of my favorite wrestlers because he's a wrestler. But in terms of getting heat, in terms of getting ratings, in terms of we really want to buy a ticket, like you used to talk about your Meemaw and Tully Blanchard. Mm-hmm. We want to see Tully get his ass whooped. People want to see turtleneck, sleeveless shirt Christian Cage, who's everybody's daddy, get his ass whooped because he's Dominic Mysterio in that.
Yes.
Just him walking out, people start fucking booing. They can't stand the guy, But that means he's over. That's the whole point.
He is.
If
and
people
he's good
cheered,
at it.
If people cheered him, it wouldn't work,
Right.
So anyway, really big fan of Christian Cage. Love his Garcia is great. Because then the next match we see, Terry, you've got Eddie retaining against Bryan Danielson, finally getting a signature win, Eddie Kingston. And the reason I don't put Eddie in the quote young category is the dude's been wrestling, 20 years now, 18 years, something like that.
Right.
Eddie Kingston, Japanese wrestler trained, great promo, not a great technical wrestler by any means, but
a lot of chops in an Eddie Kingston match. A lot of chops.
And not good ones.
Well, better than the Ric Flair ones from Dynamite. I'll give it that.
Oh,
but hey, I mean, this is where I gotta say, what's he, like 72 years old? We can't be too critical of a guy that's getting in there at 72, right?
Flair is 75.
Is he 75? That's right. He just turned 75. But my deal, and I'll go ahead and break into this since I did bring it up. Can't blame Ric Flair for that. I got to blame the people that are putting him out there to do that.
You don't put him in that spot. You don't put him in that spot. It's stupid.
Now, I will say, and we'll get to it later, but I thought the usage at the pay-per-view was worlds better than the usage of him at Dynamite, and we'll go into detail of that later. You don't seem to agree.
We're gonna argue, and it'll be just fine. But no, Kingston gets the feather in the cap against Danielson. Danielson is renowned as one of the top 5 wrestlers in the world. If you don't put him inside the top 5, you're an idiot. No, I'm kidding. Maybe I am. I don't know. But seriously, he is one of the best wrestlers in the world. The shooting, the grappling, the technical, the movement from one to move to the next. And he lost Eddie Kingston, and then he cut a promo about it. And I mean, he did a great job. It was more important for Eddie Kingston to beat Bryan Danielson than it was for Bryan Danielson to beat Eddie Kingston. And that's just the reality of the matter. Perfectly fine with the match.
I mean,
perfectly fine with
winning these days.
Yeah. He doesn't have anything to prove. He's in that spot where he doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
It'd
be nice to see him win something, though.
But what he said is that he's doing his farewell tour. And Eddie Kingston wanted to wrestle Bryan Danielson, and here we go. One thing I will say is it was interesting to me that it went on second. I thought that was a different decision.
Yeah, some of the order
And
was interesting.
yeah,
I
I thought
thought.
that going on. I thought that going on second was a very interesting call. Um,
I thought the
but I'm
scramble
okay
would
with it.
lead off. Honestly, if you got a scramble like that, why is that not the first match? I just
Fuck your
don't get it.
scramble, Tony. Good Lord. Talk about the scramble. Fuck your scramble. Listen, there was no way when you saw that advertisement. Initially, it was what was it? The meat match? Wasn't
The
it the meat
meat.
match at first?
Well, there were a lot of
No,
beefy guys. Like 5 of the 8 were
no, that
pretty beefy
you
guys.
you think I'm making this up. Hold on
The
just a
meat
second.
match. See, this would have been
Mm-mm.
great for the 0 hour. You want to talk about getting a lot of folks in. This 8-man scramble along with the 12-man tag match. And then that way you would have had 2 women's matches. Because honestly, I probably preferred the women's tag match over the women's single match that was on the pay per view. I don't
Oh,
know
you
your
better
opinion
hush your mouth about my girl. Yeah, don't you be talking greasy about Deanna Perrazzo. I will reach through this
on it.
damn computer, Terry. Don't you start. Now, you know what I'm doing right now.
You're looking something up because you're looking down. Yeah.
I'm going through the Instagram, but let's talk about it. When you advertise that Wardlow is in the match, and he's in the match with no disrespect, but Chris Jericho, Dante Martin, a luchador that I'm not familiar with and had never heard before. Oh, buddy, you thought I was screwing with you. This came from Lance Hoyt's account, and I want you to go ahead, get on your phone, and open, and that was dated February 25th. You go ahead and get on your phone and you state in a loud, clear voice that Dave in the HSV is not the only one that's going to get a public apology tonight on this show, because I am too. Because you thought I was making a joke about
What
the
am I
meat
looking
match.
for?
That Look at Instagram. I just shared it with you.
For who?
Um,
Oh, you shared it with me. Okay.
yeah, I sent it to you in a DM. Look at that crap. I mean, you tell me. But this whole match, this 8-man scramble, it should have been made to feature Wardlow, and all 7 of them should have gone down to the power bomb. That's all I'm saying. If you're going to heat Wardlow back up and you keep hinting it, he's going to be the guy that,
Oh
that faces
God.
MJF
Not
when
only
MJF
meat
comes back.
match, meat
Meat madness.
madness match. What? Who came up
Lance,
with this ridiculous name?
you thought I
Meat
was bullshitting you, and then they changed it to an eight
madness.
man scramble.
Yikes. That is rough.
Yep.
Yikes.
Yeah. So my point is that if you were going to put Wardlow over strong, I understand he won with the power bomb at the end. This I
Mhm.
actually didn't see because I was eating dinner, so I didn't actually see the end of this match. But if he wins with the power bomb, I saw that clip.
Yeah.
Why didn't you have him power bomb everybody? Fuck it. That's Wardlow. I mean, he's the killer.
Get the
Have him be the
crowd
killer
riled up.
because
Because it does
you
get the
keep
crowd
saying
going.
MJF is going to be his first opponent back when
Oh,
MJF's injury is going to be Wardlow. Well, you better get him tuned up for Wardlow because
I
MJF's
miss
going to be the biggest
MJF.
baby face. Dude, in AEW, you 100% bet your sweet ass. But I will say this, moving on from this. Well, no, you go ahead first. 8-man scramble. What did you think? We got 62-year-old Chris Jericho doing his best soccer mom imitation with his flat
So
iron
what?
hair in
There's
there.
5 beefy guys. See, I didn't list them out in this format here, but I guess we got Wardlow, we got Archer, we got Hobbs.
Hobbs,
Seems like Brian Cage was in it, right?
Brian Cage, I believe. Yeah.
Seems
And
like
then,
there
of
was
course,
one more
they get
big guy. Maybe
who would
not,
have,
but I know Dante
I
Martin
don't
was
know.
in it. Chris Jericho was
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't name them off just off the top of my head. I mean, it's another one of those. It was good for what it was, but
Yeah.
I'm never in my life going to go, man, that 8-man scramble match was fantastic. I'm just not that kind of fan.
Why the match? What difference did it make? What was the point? any more than the 12-man tag at the beginning of the show? What was the point? What are the stakes? Why do I give a shit? Again, we know the answer. And it's not just because we're smart marks and listen to a bunch of podcasts and are wrestling super fans. The answer is you're getting people on the pay-per-view. I mean, that's the answer.
And they
You
should have
got a
been power
bloated
bombed
roster.
exactly like you said. The only thing you really get in, the only way you get anything out of this is if Wardlow power bombs everybody, just like you
and
said.
looks like a monster. And looks
Yeah.
like a monster. If he's your guy, he's your guy. And Allison Faye, I love you, my love, but he needs a fucking haircut because he looks like trash. Moving on, Orange
Moving
Cassidy
on with a big
lost.
shocker. Yeah. Orange
Lost.
Cassidy losing to
Lost.
Roderick Strong. That was a big shocker to me. I don't know about you.
No, I think they built to it pretty well, and they made it so that Cassidy was not 100%. You know, he's been beaten up by the other guys in the, what do they call it? The Undisputed Kingdom.
Yeah.
Taven and, of course, Canales, whatever his name is, Mike Bennett. I called him Canales, but that's his wife, Marie Bennett, Marie Canales Bennett, whatever. Anyway, so they led up to it pretty good. And you have it in the note here, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but when he wins, and they had a nasty ass backbreaker that you see again in a match down the line we'll get to. But when he hit that backbreaker on that rope on Orange,
rough. Yeah.
What the fuck? And then I'm going to criticize them right now. We're going to get to the coverage in a second. They doubled down and they did it again 2 matches later.
Oh,
Same
I know.
move with a bigger guy. And what we're talking about, folks, is there was a backbreaker move where Strong picks up Orange Cassidy and drops him across the corner of the ring where the 6 ropes meet, the 3 ropes on each side in the turnbuckles. And buddy, it looked like he pinball wizard his ass off that turnbuckle.
Was he on the second turnbuckle? Is that what it was?
I want to say he was when he. Yeah, and he dropped him like a used rubber in a frat house on a Friday night. It looked like he just dropped him
accidentally, but obviously they did it on purpose. Yeah. But it looked pretty rough. And Cassidy is on the floor grabbing his back and squirming around. Man, some of this stuff is just ridiculous.
And the moment that you've got notated, and again, I don't want to take your thunder. Kyle O'Reilly returns in front of this crowd. Has a really weird interaction with Roderick Strong and Mike Bennett and Taven. And because Roderick should be celebrating, we get it. You just won the international title, and Orange Cassidy's been the flag bearer for that belt. But then they do this little weird thing. They stare down. He whispers in his ear, and as Kyle O'Reilly is leaving, he's got tears in his eyes because he's so happy to be back. 16,000 fans in Greensboro cheering for him. That's when you bring Tony out and do an interview, not Tony Khan, Tony Schiavone, or somebody like that. Have Renee do it and welcome him back. That was a really stupid placement, in my opinion, for something that should have been 2 standalone things. Don't combine them if you're not going to have them attack or you're not going to have them unite. It was a weird Mexican standoff situation where, it was like, well, who's going to flinch first sort of thing. And then he leaves all emotional. And I get it because he's been gone for so long with that horrible neck injury. But what the fuck are you doing?
Maybe they're thinking they need to do it that way to set up Dynamite or something. I don't know.
Give each of them their moment. That's all I'm saying. They each deserve it. Give them their moment. Give the win. Give Roddy his win, and go ahead and let O'Reilly have his moment too. But anyway, maybe I'm being too nitpicky. It was just really weird watching it at the end of that match. That's all. It was a very strange thing. So,
it was because it was like, normally what you see is some reluctance and then they'll hug or shake hands or something. And you saw that, but then there was this attempt to give him a t-shirt and he rejected the t-shirt. So I don't know, a lot to be seen there. I guess we'll see it at Dynamite. Maybe then we'll get the interview with Kyle O'Reilly, but you're right. It would have been nice to grab him on the way back to get a little bit of a response there.
Or even do it as 2 separate segments where they welcome him back in front of 16,000 people, let him have a few words and move on. Because what they did, you can do on Dynamite. that whole little interaction, that weird foreplay they're doing, you could do
Yep.
that on Dynamite. You didn't have to do it on the pay-per-view. Um, anyway, didn't really love it. But tell us about our next match, because one of our dear friends needed consolation
Well, that's true. That is true because FTR lost
as
in
FTR
North Carolina.
in North Carolina, buddy. Tell me about it, Terry. What do you think?
So, I mean, obviously, it was a great match. One thing that got me, I had taken the note John Moxley did not bleed. I would have corrected it had he bled, but boy, did Dax bleed. He bled like crazy. And then Mox is biting him on the head, elbowing him in the head. So it was like, you do it this time kind of deal. And I don't like seeing Dax submit. I don't like seeing that. That's not the persona that we get from FTR normally. They're not the guys that submit. I'm not sure why we went that direction. And it's in North Carolina. Just a big shocker to me that it went down that way.
Yeah, I honestly thought that this was a coin toss match. I also thought going into this, um, and we'll talk about it at the end when we get through them all, that this was going to be this one and the Testa Osprey match were going to be the ones that steal the show. Um, and we were not wrong. FTR put on a hell of a show. The Combat Club comes out dressed as the Legion of Doom in Greensboro. Spikes on, doing the whole entrance through the thing.
Yeah, that was
FTR comes
interesting.
out. You see the traditional stuff. You see a lot of great wrestling back and forth, tagging it up. Of course, they tried one of the Steiner tandem moves, gets countered into a power slam. That was a big move when Claudio hit the power slam from on Cash's shoulders. He hit Dax with the power slam. But you're right. You get the DDT, the high neck DDT from Mox. Doesn't get the win, get the choke, and like you said, bloody image of Dax, and
Dax,
then you
yeah.
get the handshake. Then you get the handshake at the end. You get them all showing each other respect at the end of that.
What do you feel
Good.
about that? I mean, is it overdone in AEW, the handshake finish?
It's more overdone, I think, in AEW. You don't normally see it as much in like the WWE.
Yeah.
Um, and we totally skipped any WWE coverage, and that's okay. But it's pretty clear Rock and Roman are getting their shit in and getting together. Too. So I mean, every story has its tells. I don't think you can make either of them heel groups though, because they tried the Blackpool Combat Club as heels. They
Yeah.
tried FTR as heels. They
People
just
cheer
don't. They
for him.
don't. People cheer for them regardless. They don't care.
Right.
And even with all the blood, we always joke Moxley will blade in his entrance. And,
He
I mean,
didn't.
it almost sounds like we're shitting on him, but this guy bleeds in every single match. And
And this guy,
blood in the old school used to be reserved for the big
yeah,
events,
in
the
the
steel
cage.
cages, the war games, whatever.
Yeah,
Moxley will bleed. Moxley bleeds in the morning, make himself a fucking bowl of cereal. I mean,
that's right.
that's how much he bleeds. So, I mean, you got Abdullah the Butcher, John Moxley. That's how it works.
He is also pencil thin. I mean,
Yep,
he is. I mean,
yep.
he's a pretty tall. I don't know how tall he is.
Six
Maybe
two,
being
maybe
so thin makes
six
him
one.
look taller, but man, he looked incredibly thin in this match. And I don't know if he's more thin than he has been, but that's what really caught my eye. And I
Yeah,
say
and
that as
I
kind of a guy with a gut here, but you know how it is.
well, and he'd quit drinking and all that stuff too. And I mean,
Oh, is that what
and he
does it?
he, yeah, and he's a hell of a wrestler. I mean,
He is.
Moxley can rest. That's the thing that's such a thing for or a pill for people to swallow. John Moxley can wrestle. He absolutely can wrestle, but he prefers to do this blood and guts, hardcore, whatever style. But he certainly can wrestle. I mean, he had great wrestling matches when he was the world champion at AEW
And he was very
before
good in this
every
match. Yeah.
everything became a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I'm all for it, and I um, really enjoyed the match itself. I think this one
Mhm.
was the second best one of the night. Because well, it might have been number three, honestly, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna do the Meltzer gimmick. I don't give a shit what anybody says because this is our show and we do what we want.
We got
But next,
two wrestling heavy episodes in a row. We're
yeah,
gonna we're gonna do it once in a while.
yeah, next episode or next matchup episode. What the hell am I talking? Our next episode, we're gonna discuss cereal, and Terry doesn't have a choice. But anyway, the next match, timeless Tony Storm in the black and white takes down the 5-time TNA World Champion Deonna Purrazzo, the Virtuosa. Really, really good wrestling match. Too much fucking gaga. They need to let Tony Storm win clean. My opinion.
Yeah,
What do
it
you
was a
think, buddy?
decent match. I watch AEW women matches, and I can't help but compare to WWE or
Eons ahead.
NWA. And I mean, even
Also, eons
NWA,
ahead.
I
Mhm.
just I can't get that out of my thought process. And this is where I don't want to crap on Tony Storm here. Like you said, it was a good match, but I don't get the same feel from women's matches in AEW for whatever reason. Maybe they haven't been supported. There's a you know obviously we love Thunder Rosa. Um, I really like Britt Baker, but
Rebel.
and
Rebel.
but my deal is it's not the same, and they are way behind when it comes to the women's division, and I hope that improves. I think they've got some women on the roster that can get back in it and improve things. Like I said, I don't want to crap on both of these women because they did what they were supposed to do. I just think
Mhm.
collectively they got some work to do to improve it. But decent
I
match.
I think they need to find themselves somebody that knows women's wrestling in AEW. And I know I sound like such a hard ass critic about professional wrestling, and it's choreographed violence, and I mean, it's all predetermined, and you can say whatever you want. People like Deonna Purrazzo, Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker belong on the television set.
Yeah.
Rebel brings a different animal to I mean, she's older than all of them. She's in her 40s,
Hmm.
but this is a former Dallas Cowboys cheerleader that understands Hollywood. She gets that aspect of it. And she's not an awful professional wrestler. It's
Right.
why she did so well being the fucking goof for Britt Baker for so long, because she's actually very good. I think of it, and I'm not going to compare her. Don't take it as a literal comparison, but you think about Bobby Heenan and all the bump taking he did and the goofy shit he did as the manager. That's what Rebel did for Britt Baker. She did all
Hmm.
the goofy shit and the fun shit and the, oh, she's going to get her ass kicked shit. But we haven't seen Sheeta. You haven't seen Jamie Hayter because she's injured. I think Britt Baker might be injured. If
Yeah.
not, she told Tony to fuck off, and she's at the house. Um, but they're trying to warm up Velvet or Blue. I get them wrong. Blue, what's her
Sky Blue.
name? The one with the Sky Blue, the one with the ass. That's the one everybody loves so much. And then you got Statlander, and you got
Yeah.
Julia Hart, and you've
Hmm.
got the whatever her name is, the really energetic heavier set African American girl. What is her name? She's with Statlander and Stokely Carmichael.
Willow
Willow Nightingale. Thank you. Yeah,
Nightingale.
Willow.
Yeah.
So you've got these women, but you need the top tier. The problem is WWE has all the top tier women wrestlers.
Well,
Every
like I
one of them.
said, NWA is doing better too, though. I mean, they're finding
Well,
them.
and here's the other thing. On a roster that has Serena Deeb signed to it, we haven't seen her either in
Right.
AEW. She's and I know she was sick and had some weird things, but she feels good. She's cleared. She's healthy. Put her back on television. That's what you do. You put her back on television because she's an excellent, excellent professional wrestler. Like you said, NWA, she was the NWA World Champion for a very long time. Thunder Rosa, same thing. So my thing is, then you turn on the WWE's programming for women, and women are not only featured, they main event.
Yeah.
They are, I mean, the matches are good. They're compelling
More
television,
athleticism.
decent stories, a lot more athleticism. So they need some help over there in the women's division. And I think they need some help booking in the women's division as much as they need help wrestling.
Absolutely.
And I've been really hard on the women's division in AEW, but it is really because WWE has set the standard so high, so high.
Yeah.
And then you turn on TV and you see all this raw potential these women have, and they shit the bed. You want them to succeed. This isn't us criticizing them because we want them to. I'm not hate watching the women's division in AEW. I'm hate watching the booking of the women's division in AEW.
Well, it's
because
just
horrible.
like the 12-man
absolutely
tag
horrible.
match. We're like, for what it was, it
What the
was
fuck's that
decent.
for?
And it's like you put them in a bad
Yeah.
spot, then they're not going to be as good. It's just how it is.
And Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, Private Party, The Acclaimed, Jay White, and the Guns.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me you don't have better things you could do with all of those guys?
Right.
Anyway, I think they need to do better with the women's division. And I am a big time Rebel supporter. And I think that it is a mistake that Tony Khan keeps somebody with her experience, her level of talent, her knowledge of entertainment. This was a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, professional wrestler, independent wrestler, worked for TNA. I mean, she knows her shit. She's smart, she's intelligent, she's beautiful, she's funny. She's sitting her ass at home. You tell me, Terry. And at some point, we both know when you have over 100 wrestlers on the roster, they ain't going to get them all on the roster anyway.
Right. Unless they do a
So
big scramble or something.
So you send them home to collect paychecks because they're all on guaranteed contracts.
Right.
They don't have to fucking wrestle to get paid. So anyway, I'm off my
that
tangent.
next match, have a feeling you like the next match.
Number one on the show.
I figured.
Bar none. Bar none. Will Ospreay. My God, what a character. What a wrestler. Defeats Konosuke Takeshita. Excuse me. It's not Takeshita. It's Takeshita.
Not? I guess I've listened to too much Cornette.
It's Takeshita. And Takeshita is a big man. He's not small. That is a very big man.
He is.
And Ospreay went toe to toe with him like he has all of the rest, be that Omega, Okada, White. Will Ospreay is the real deal.
He is.
If there is an argument for the best wrestler in the world, he is certainly in the argument. Had a really good showing, high energy, great promo Wednesday.
High energy, like I said earlier, just about knocked my whole arm off on Wednesday.
And so good. You know I love Will Ospreay.
Oh yeah.
But I love Japanese wrestling. The guy come out of New Japan. Of course, Takeshita's out of DDT. These guys know what they're doing. Takeshita's not even 30 years old, and I think Ospreay just turned 30 years old. But here's my problem with this match, and it's the only problem I had. They set up the second rope suplex, dropped him right on the damn ropes, and legit, and I shared that in our group chat, legit bruised the shit out of his back, ribs, and ass, as he said in his press conference.
Right.
But Will Ospreay wins this one, wins it clean. Mm-hmm. I just don't think they need to do some of that dangerous shit. That's it. Right. And I mean, as
we'll get to more of that in a minute, for sure.
Yeah. Oh God, and you know I'm gonna go off on a fucking rant on the EVPs, but this whole deal with the match, they win clean, with Ospreay and Takeshita. I really enjoyed the physicality, the segments, the movements. These two feed off of each other very, very well. And you see that Japanese influence that they both have inside the match. Ospreay, there's a reason he has so many 5-star matches. It is Dave Meltzer's opinion. I get that. but Meltzer knows as much about wrestling as anybody. And while we know a lot of people that don't want to hear Meltzer's opinion on matches, he's as much of a wrestling historian, having chronicled the last 40 plus years of professional wrestling, as anybody. You don't have to agree with his commentary, doesn't mean that he doesn't know what he's seeing.
Right.
And yeah, I believe Will Ospreay has some stupid number like 19 or 25 star plus matches. The dude's 30 years old. The future is very, very, very bright in AEW if they capitalize on it correctly. What makes me concerned as a fan is when you see a suplex turned into that spot. That's serious injury waiting to happen. And we both know, Terry, from a business point of view, you paid huge money for Will Ospreay to not end up in the WWE because you don't think Triple H could do something with Will Ospreay. You're fucking
definitely.
crazy.
Absolutely.
You are nuts. If you don't think for one fucking minute that Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque, Triple H, the Game, the Cerebral Assassin, whatever you want to call him, couldn't figure out a main event spot for Will Ospreay, you've lost your fucking mind. Because you talk about a guy that they could bring in, heat up, and automatically put next to Cody Rhodes after he dethrones Roman, there's your guy right there. But the opportunity is no longer there because he's in AEW. Please do not get hurt and end up sitting on the sidelines for 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, or worse, end your fucking career when you got a little baby at home and a wife. That's all I'm saying. Because that's what he has. He has a 1.5 year old baby, and he's got a wife. It's not fucking worth it. And this is coming from a guy who remembers June the 28th, 1998. And Undertaker and Mankind wrestled cage, and Mankind went through the cage. And 13 or 14-year-old me thought it was the craziest shit I'd ever seen in my life, Gary. Mick Foley has a hard time getting around walking these days. Ain't nothing romantic about getting thrown off of a fucking cage or taking a bump on a ramp or doing the cement, body slam. There's nothing romantic to that anymore. Nothing. Nothing. I don't want to, and we'll get to Darby Allin in a minute, but I don't want to see any of these guys in wheelchairs at 40 years old.
Well,
they keep doing some
I'll
of this
have
shit.
A little more
that's what you're
exception
gonna
to that
see.
one than this one, just because this was a Will Ospreay match that focused on him.
Yeah.
Darby was just there for the Sting match.
Yeah.
But
correct.
Before we get into that one, we got this three-way match with Samoa Joe beating Swerve Strickland and Hangman, and the announcers were really, really pushing this idea of Hangman doesn't care about winning as much as Strickland not winning. And I'm like, boy, they're really pushing that. They keep saying it over and over again.
Yeah. Obviously, they got bigger plans for that particular feud.
Yeah.
Hangman effectively turned heel last night, and Swerve is now a babyface. And I don't care what anybody says. The crowd's going to pick it. You got Nana coming out doing the fucking dance to Swerve's music. You got 8 women with him. He comes out flashing the grill, and then he delivers. He's a very good professional wrestler. An extremely good professional wrestler.
Really good. Yeah.
The crowd is going to cheer Swerve Strickland. They're going to cheer him, and they're not going to boo him. So you have just made a baby face. It was much more important if there was going to be a title change last night, in my humble opinion, that it be Swerve Strickland that took it off of Joe as opposed to Hangman. Hangman's been the world champion.
What do you think of Joe as the champion?
Legitimacy, tough guy, killer, credibility. He's an old school throwback. The Kurt Angles, the Arn Andersons, the Barry Windhams, somebody that you could believe can carry that fucking championship. That's, and I know Arn didn't carry the world title, but he carried the television title.
Right.
And he carried the tag team titles, and it was believable. We talked about Ole Anderson dying. Ole Anderson got on the microphone and he told you he was coming to your house to break your leg. You 100% believed Ole was going to show up at the door to break your leg. That's the believability I think you get out of Samoa Joe, being that straight up killer figure that he is. I mean, there's a reason the audience used to chant, "Joe's going to kill you, Terry." People really believe that Joe's going to kill you.
Well, I
I
don't
love
remember
Joe.
what it was from Wednesday, but they had that spot where Strickland and Adam Page were in the ring, and Joe came out on the ramp, and they're talking back and forth, and Hangman hits Swerve in the back with a crutch or whatever at some point. But one of them said something, and I don't remember what it was, but it zooms in on Joe, and he is just fuming. It's just like it really got to him, and you could tell he is like, that is not the thing to say to this guy. He is way too big and way too sturdy to be talking to him like that, because he's going to get you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Joe is legitimate. My favorite Samoa Joe matches, and he's had a lot of great ones in Ring of Honor, and he had them in TNA and WWE even. Favorite Samoa Joe matches are with Kurt Angle and TNA. You talk tough guy, legitimacy, badass shooters. Watch Joe and Kurt Angle from TNA. Absolutely fantastic. And I get that he was Kurt at the time where he was doing 40 or 50 Percocet a day, but those guys went and they went balls to the wall and they didn't give a shit they were going to hurt each other. They did.
Yeah.
I mean, they 100% did. 15 years later, Samoa Joe still has that same fire, passion, intensity, and he really hasn't lost a step. He not to me anyway. He's really not slowed down that
He's
much.
doing the same thing. Yeah.
An incredible professional wrestler, plays the bully well, picks his spots, beats you up, that sort of thing. Um, we even got the little signature where he walks away when a guy's going to
Yes.
jump on him at the top rope.
A little bit of
So and
humor.
I love that shit because
Yeah, it's
it's
great.
funny. It's funny to me. But no, Joe I think is a legitimate, credible threat. And whoever he does take the belt off of him, he's going to make sure they do it the right way. It's going to be, a right passing of the torch. It's not going to be some nonsense or some bullshit. So
Right.
I'm good with that match. I think that match was fantastic. I think there was a little too much at the end, but you could tell when you've got Paige attacking the referees, beating them up, hitting Swerve with the
They're
belt,
definitely
going
setting
after
something
Joe.
up big time here for sure.
Yep. And they're trying to push him into that heel role,
Yeah.
that he had played in New
Right.
Japan when he was the Hangman and
I
he
mean, he
killed
just
what's
starts
his face, the
pounding on
guy
the
that
ref.
Joey
Yeah.
Ryan.
Right.
Yeah, when he killed Joey Ryan, if you remember before All In, he killed Joey Ryan back in 2018 or whatever it was. And Joey Ryan comes out to All In to all of the penises or whatever it was, the dancing dicks. That was Hangman's angle though in New Japan, where he had hung Joey Ryan and killed him. So I think you're going to see some of the same now. If it's me, because of the world we live in, do not put a noose around Swerve Strickland's neck. That is a bad look. Um, Obviously, don't do that. Not good. Don't be
Right.
hanging him. So anyway, like match, really enjoyed it. I thought it was fine for a three-way. I really want to see AEW make Swerve Strickland though. I think he's there. I think he deserves the chance. I think he's new. People will get behind him. And I
Yeah.
don't
And
think he can play the heel. When you got Nana coming out to his fucking music and just doing that dance where nah, 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 nah,
yeah.
I don't think you can make Swerve Strickland a heel at this point. And I think they realize that, which is why you saw all the effort to make Adam Page such a bad guy last night.
Well, I thought this was good considering the main event was you know, it technically a tag team championship match, I guess, but not really. It was
Yeah,
other than
so
that. But I thought you
before
take
you
your champion and you do something else with that match to set up something later. And I thought they did that pretty well from that perspective.
Before you move on, it was reported because we listened to the 83 weeks pre-show when I was watching it with the team,
Yeah.
with the AFS guys. It was reported that Sting and Darby were going to be the semi, and that World Championship was going to close.
Mm.
And it was opposite.
Yeah.
And anyway, if you've advertised this whole thing as Sting's last match, Sting goes on last. I don't give a shit what championship is or isn't on the line. I mean, this is booking 101, Tony. But anyway.
But we've already
Sting's last match
earlier in the pay-per-view the order of the matches. So why would we not criticize the late matches?
Yeah, Sting's last match. That's what you do. It's Sting's last match. Now, we got Steamboat and Flair coming out. That was exciting, I guess.
Darby bleeding profusely right from the beginning.
Back in old Greensboro. Well, and then let's talk about Sting's sons. That was pretty cool, but you notice they didn't do any. They didn't do any TNA. All they did was the Surfer Sting, and they did the Wolfpack Sting.
That's right.
And of course, Sting did the quote Crow Sting or Modern Sting or whatever you want to call it. But it was fun to get him involved. I see your note here. They got him in early. Hit the Stinger Splash on both of the EVPs, and both brothers got the Stinger Splash, I thought the video package was phenomenal.
Oh, it absolutely
setting it up. I wish they could have used more of his WCW, NWA stuff, the film of the TNA stuff, because I even posed a question to our group last night. One of them anyway, maybe both of them, because we're in two different group chats for those of you playing along at home. I posed the question, who's Sting's greatest rivals? Who is it? And I mean, if you look at WCW from my vantage point, I loved Surfer Sting. So I'm going to say it's Rude, and I'm going to say it's Flair. Well, I'm going to say it's Flair first. Always Ric Flair, because Flair made Sting, and they're tied together forever. But I'm going to say it's Flair, and it's Vader, and it's Rick Rude, and it's Cactus Jack. Those are the people that I'm saying it is. And even Lex Luger or whatever. I forgot who I listed as the fifth. Muda. That's who I listed. Muda. Yeah. It was Muda. But my point to say any of that is, that's what I grew up on. When watching Vader and Sting beat the brakes off of each other in a strap match at Super Brawl 3, the White Castle of Fear, who's the man? You got Vader and Harley versus the Stinger.
I cannot hear White Castle of Fear without thinking about eating some tiny cheeseburgers. I mean, that's what I think about every single time.
But I love that strap match because they literally beat the shit out of each other. Yeah. And Sting wasn't afraid of Leon White. You always hear these stories about Vader being such a bully. Sting kicked his ass. I mean, he went after him, Yeah. But anyway, I thought it was a really nice montage, really nice tribute to Sting.
It was great.
Tony gets to yell one more time.
That's
it's Sting,
and I saw today where Luger and Magnum TA were there in Greensboro.
Luger, Magnum, DDP. DDP was in attendance. Several other people in the back
were huge there. For those guys that were there during the times where Greensboro was definitely a thing.
Yeah, when when the Horsemen were feuding with Dusty, Sting was on the card. You got 20,000 people in that Coliseum or in that arena once a month. The Greensboro was the Madison Square Garden. I guess Arn says the Omni was the Madison Square Garden, but damn it, if Greensboro won't the capital of Horseman Country and won't the capital of Crockett Country, I mean, that was the event. When you went up for Starrcade, you backed traffic up on I-85 for, what did they say, 7 or 8 miles? People getting into the Greensboro Coliseum back in the day for Starrcade. That's huge. Thanksgiving Day, you got traffic backed up for miles in Greensboro. So, but as for the match itself, I really like the idea of Sting retiring. But the glass spots, absolutely unnecessary.
Right.
They put the glass in the corner. They threw Sting into the fucking glass, and the glass shattered all over the audience. Then that idiot Darby Allin, who's going to fucking kill himself on television. And God knows any of us that ordered 1999 Over the Edge already saw that shit one time. Don't need to see it again. When Owen died, and that was an accident. Gets up on a ladder with the chairs laid out, with a piece of glass on the ladder. He's going to jump on, whatever Jackson it was, and he lands, almost overshoots the glass to begin with, coming down there like a rocket, like a damn roller coaster, lands through the glass. And Terry, tell our audience what happens when you land back first on a piece of genuine glass.
You get cut up pretty bad. And that's what happened.
Bleeding like a stuck fucking pig everywhere.
And, it's like
everywhere.
The thing with Dax, I can kind of handle. The head gets bloodied up. That's what we're used to seeing. Now, Mick Foley did a lot of stuff, right? And
a lot of dumb stuff, in my opinion. And I think Mick Foley's in my top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time. Right. I will not say Mount Rushmore again on this show, but Dusty's on it. But Mick Foley is not. But he's in my top. I mean, he's seriously top 10 favorite when you think of all his work, all that stuff. But at what cost?
But especially in this match,
did he pay?
It's like, this is Sting's final match. Why? I don't know the need to do all that. Do we have to do all that in the main event? Is that what the deal is? Is that where we are in 2024? I don't know. I get turned off by a lot of that, because I think there were good spots during that match. Like I said, and maybe you disagree, when Flair laid on top of Sting, and one of the Jacksons is asking, hey, get up. Let me get to him or whatever. Flair wouldn't get up, and then they double super kicked him, and then they double super kicked Steamboat. I kind of liked those spots. I can do without the glass. There was a lot in this match. Some of it good, some of it bad. It was good to see Sting one last time get all that attention. So overall, I enjoyed it. I was glad to see Sting and Darby win. Sting goes out as a champion, and that's good. I don't know what they'll do with the tag belts now that Sting's going away, but that'll be interesting to see also. It's going to be some kind of tournament, some kind of pay-per-view or something. We'll see what happens.
Tournament. They announced it.
Oh, it's already announced. They didn't waste any time with that, did they?
Nope. They announced it at the Scrum. There's going to be a tag team tournament. They vacated the titles. So my last note on this thing, Flair and Steamboat come down, super kick, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I talked about the spot where they threw Sting through the glass. Then Pop decides he's going to get his 75-year-old ass in a wrestling ring. And as the greatest professional wrestler of all time he is or isn't, that's debatable. We have a lot of friends that think he is. Ric Flair belongs nowhere near a professional wrestling ring. Certainly not to take a fucking bump at 75 with a pacemaker and an alcohol problem. He was so fucking drunk Wednesday, and he looked like he was drunk Sunday. Old Nate holding the fucking buzz down for the rest of us. Like he's one of the killer bees back in the day. But anyway, this sumbitch takes a bump into the fucking broken glass at 75 years old. That was my takeaway, Terry. Fuck your super kicks. They were trash. He took a flat back into the fucking broken glass. Okay. Number 2, Ricky Steamboat, arguably one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. In-ring technician, smooth as silk. The Young Bucks had one fucking job. Throw those super kicks just once. And they whiffed them on one of the best sellers professional wrestling has ever seen, and most sympathetic baby faces. If I'm Ricky Steamboat, I'm fucking them both up in the locker room, because them two dumbasses completely missed the spot. And Steamboat, it would matter to him, because he's a perfectionist. Didn't need to get either of them involved. I don't ever want to see old ass Crypt Keeper Ric Flair in a wrestling ring again. Love the matches, love what he did, love the rivalry with Harley and Dusty and Sting and all the rest. Take your ass home, go sell your weed and your woo energy drinks, and get the fuck out of a wrestling ring. Because one of these days you are going to die in one, and it's not going to be good for anybody. So that's where I'm at. Pop needs to stay out of the ring. Broken glass, flat back bumps, not good, buddy. Not good. Um, I mean, let's face it. We love Arn Anderson. You think Arn Anderson's going to take a flat back into fucking broken glass at 65 years old with a bad back and a bad neck
You'd
that he
rather eat a
talks about
block
on
of
the
cheese,
show?
I think.
Yeah, I think he'd rather eat that fucking cheeseburger than he would, take a flat back on glass. So good for Rick being willing to do it. But you talk about utterly unnecessary. I sound like I'm criticizing Ric Flair, and I guess I am a little bit because he had to say yes to do it. Don't put a 75-year-old senior citizen who's a 16-time world champion in a position where he's got to do a flat back on broken glass. Fuck that noise. Completely unnecessary. 100%.
So bottom line, though, I think overall the pay-per-view was pretty decent. Had some really good matches, some things that we wish we didn't see. It was good to send Sting out. And with respect to sending Sting out, we threw together a top 10 list this time. And this week's top 10 is top 10 face painted wrestlers and tag teams. Got several people we know to vote for this one. Put it out there. Might be some shockers here. A lot of people with different histories and different interests voted on this. Let's run it down. Number 10, the Great Kabuki. And I put a little bit of info here. You got a sour face there. I'm guessing you didn't vote for the Great Kabuki, Andrew.
That would be a negative, Ghost Rider.
So I did do a
I
Wikipedia search for everybody.
Yeah, I see WCCW on that list. I know
where
who
this
voted
came
for him.
from.
Oh, yeah.
Several NWA
Dave?
titles, several tag team titles. He was in All Japan, WCCW, and many others. He joined the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2020. Not a big fan, huh?
Well, no, I mean he's a typical heel. He's out of the Orient. He's a Asian wrestler, which means he's automatically a bad guy, and he wears face paint, which means he's unique. So nothing wrong with Kabuki. He also spit the mist, but there is a painted Japanese wrestler out of the Orient who was a bad guy who spit the mist that I like far better than the Great Kabuki. And
we may have
list,
multiple of those ahead of us on this list. I'm just saying. Number 9, Jeff Hardy. And look at me. I think I picked a picture of him without any face paint. I will correct this before
what the fuck are you all doing? Okay, so we had debated, ladies and gentlemen, whether to let our fans participate in our top 10 football poll when we get back to the season. You all just lost. That was your job interview, and you put Jeff Hardy on this shit. What the fuck is wrong with people? His paint looks like shit. Nobody cares that he glows in the dark but the kids. The poor guy can't wrestle anymore. He needs to stay at the home. But you're right. World champion, intercontinental champion, tag team champion. According to some people in our AFS group, part of the best tag team in the world in the history of wrestling, and they're wrong because that's Arn and Tully, followed very closely by the Midnight Express and third by FTR, and that's the way it is. But anyway, no, he doesn't deserve to be on this list, Harry.
Is he the Raisin Bran of this list? Is that what you're
Motherfucker,
saying?
if he ain't, I don't know.
Is he the bottle caps of this list?
He is the bottle caps of this list 100%. I mean, he is the Werther's original of hard candy on this fucking list. I mean, what is wrong with people?
My Meemaw, and I will not stand for that. Number 8. This one you will like. We've talked about her earlier in the night. Thunder Rosa. Oh, you're not liking this one either, huh?
It's just because she's new. I mean, it's current, rather. That's the only reason that people put her on the list, that and her ass. But I mean, I had a conversation with somebody about that, so nobody criticized me. You can cancel me if you want, but I'm like Ric Flair. I'll never retire. Anyway, no, great professional wrestler. The paint
You've
is
been a lot
very
of
signature.
places.
Yeah,
Been
she
women's
does the Day of the
champion and
Dead
yeah.
for her paint get up. It's not some fucked up neon like Jeff Hardy does. This is a Day of the Dead traditional mask that you would see for the Dia de los Muertos, is celebrated in Hispanic culture. So that's Halloween for those of you playing along at home, October 31st or 31 de Octubre. Um, it's like I said, it's the Day of the Dead. It does matter in Hispanic culture. That's what she's doing, is what they call a sugar mask. So great throwback, great tribute. Do like it. Think that she probably doesn't belong on this list if we're doing all time paint jobs. But you know, go ahead, buddy. Let's see who's number 7.
Number 7, Asuka, and I put a little bit of a note here, exactly 2 years younger than yours truly. Same birthday, a little bit younger. And yes, that means she's old. Wrestled in Japan and the US before entering in the WWE in 2017, where she had an undefeated streak in 2017 and 18. SmackDown Women's Champion, Tag Team Champions multiple times with Kairi Sane, Grand Slam Champion, game designer and hairstylist. She's doing everything. And I told you
Yeah,
that we would have multiple Asian face painted wrestlers that would spit some kind of colorful something in people's faces here. And this is another one.
very true. Very true. I will say this about Asuka. I love what they did with her early, um, in her in her career. I do not like so much what they've done with her now, but she is certainly a very good professional wrestler. And don't mind the dog; he's coughing. Hey, hey, relax, relax, homie.
We got a third
My
co-host tonight.
This is my 11-year-old bulldog. He's having a moment over there. But anyway,
It's like that scene from Christmas Vacation. Give him a minute. Give him a minute. He'll cough
finish.
it up. And I screwed
No,
that up.
that's just what you guys say. But anyway, I was texting our buddy Dave while we were talking. Asuka, great wrestler, great women's wrestler, added a different element to the women's division. You really didn't see someone like her. And of course, she was part of the Spearhead campaign. She doesn't get the credit for it, but the women actually being wrestlers, Asuka was part of that. Where you see the transition from them going from divas to professional wrestlers, she was a big part of that. And I mean, her face paint isn't iconic to me, not all of it. I think more the mask when I think of Asuka. The mask she wears, the kabuki masks and that sort of thing. I don't necessarily think.
Well, you know
face
me,
paint,
I
but
miss out on the masks. So there you
right,
go.
yeah,
Bringing that one
especially
back.
the Stinger masks.
Number 6, Gold Dust.
All right,
I
fuck
didn't
y'all.
vote for Gold.
Gold
I
Dust.
did not vote for
Gold,
Gold Dust at all.
Gold Dust is number 1. Number
Oh,
one
are
on
you
the
kidding
list.
me? Are you
Number
kidding me?
1. I am dead serious, Terry.
Man.
I told you we were going to argue about who was number 1 on this list, and it is
Wow.
Gold Dust. You think about the longevity, the different styles, the way that he would paint his masks. Also, he is Dusty Rhodes' son, the other one, and one of the best professional wrestlers to never win the world championship. So, Gold Dust to me, number 1 on the list. Honestly, I'm not making that up. Number 1 on the list if you're talking about painted wrestlers. So I knew we were going to argue, but I can't believe they dropped down to number 6. What's wrong with y'all?
Well, I didn't put him on my list at all. I'm sure others didn't.
It's like an associate of ours talking shit about Tom Osborne last night. Y'all fucking wrong. Anyway.
Oh, good. So now we know who you voted number 1. Number 5,
yeah.
the Great Muta. And here he is.
What the fuck? How is Muta number 5?
All right, where'd you have him? You have him
Like
higher?
3.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
like
don't know.
3.
I'm with you. I mean, look, he's very accomplished, very recognizable. He's the man. WWE Hall of Fame in 2023. All over the place. All
Yeah.
Japan, New Japan, Jim Crockett, WCW, TNA, championships all over the place.
And if you were a professional wrestling fan when Muta came into WCW in 1988, 89, he feuds with Sting, wins the television championship, gets managed by Gary Hart, teams with Terry Funk. He's immediately inserted in that big picture. But this is the thing about Muta. He would wear red paint, green paint, black paint, yellow paint. I mean, so his paint changed just like Stinger's did.
Mhm.
But Muta also threw the handspring elbow and the corkscrew elbow. And anybody that knows what I'm talking about, the guy'd be in the corner and he'd come hit him with the handspring and spring into them, hit the elbow, which people still do today. But then if he had him prone on the canvas, he'd hit that corkscrew elbow where he twist his whole body and throw the elbow like he was actually trying to hurt somebody. And then of course he had the kicks and the mist and the whole finger thing he would do, and
Mhm.
you know, Muda was the man. One of the things I said to you, or maybe the group in a private, or offline, not recording, whatever our conversation was,
Yeah.
Muda was the first professional wrestler that confused me as a kid. And what I meant by that was it was something you'd never seen before. He confused might have been the wrong word, maybe intrigued, because he had that macho man quality where he could wrestle and work, but he also had that macho man quality where he was very elaborate with his presentation. The biggest difference is he had to have Gary Hart talk for him instead of growling about thinking, thinking, thinking. Uh-huh. So, there you go.
And I guess maybe that's what took him away from being pulled up higher in Jim Crockett or WCW.
Correct. I would agree with that. So,
It's
but
unfortunate.
yeah, Muda number 5. I mean, he should be higher, but our audience can't always be right. Our fans that vote, talk
You
about
may
voting in
flip
a
out
in a
here.
minute.
Number
Oh
4,
God.
the Road Warriors.
Ah, what a rush.
So tag champs all over the place, NWA, AWA, Japan, WWF. They were in Georgia Championship Wrestling, AWA, Japan, Jim Crockett, WWF, WWE Hall of Fame in 2011. The Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom. I remember them big time with some of those really stupid scaffold matches. You remember that?
With the
I mean,
Midnights. Yeah, the Midnight Express.
I
Yeah.
thought it was the greatest thing ever when I was a kid, but I look back at that going, these guys are tiptoeing. They don't want to fall on accident. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But when I was a kid,
Well,
I loved it.
and you and I both know that, you don't think about it when you're a kid, because I agree with you, just like I said about the Mick Foley thing, get flying off the cage or through the cage.
Yeah.
Um, Hawk and Animal shoot 300 pounds. I mean, those are big men up on that damn scaffold, and they're sitting there beating up on the Midnight Express on Condrey and Eaton. And,
Yeah.
I've got, like I said, everybody knows that I do the Arn podcast and the notes. Arn is on the record saying that if they had ever approached him to do a scaffold match, it would be the one time he would have said no to anybody in
So
Jim
I
Crockett
asked a
promotion.
question about that. I asked him, would he rather do a scaffold match or eat a block of cheese? And he said he would choke the cheese down.
Yep. Yep. That's legit because it was so scary. And when you
Oh,
watch
I
those
bet. I
matches
can't
back
imagine.
from, well, from 86, think about the night of the Skywalkers, as they called it.
Mm-hmm.
When you watch the 86 Starcade and you watch that thing spinning back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, James E blows out both knees because
Crazy.
Bubba missed him, that is dangerous as hell
It
on a
is.
scaffold. Now, one thing about the Road Warriors that you don't see in this picture you've provided is eventually they settled into the signature paint, the red, the white, the black. Animal always had the spider on the forehead, Hawk always had the blades coming out each side. But in the early incarnation of this tag team, you did see what we're looking at here. It was the different colors and a little bit different face paint. They were trying to get it all figured out because that looks like the Georgia or
Yeah.
AWA championship. So that
Yeah, this is
like the
pretty early.
younger,
Yeah.
the early days, because they're still wearing the collars too, and they're not wearing the shoulder pads with the spikes.
Right.
And by the way, just so I can piss everybody off because I'm shitting on all of you, the Road Warriors are not the #1 tag team ever in professional wrestling, despite the resume. And I said it. I said it. I'm in it.
Well, let's move on to number 3, Finn Balor. And this is a guy that just a little bit of history for folks. In 1999, I pretty much quit watching. I was a WCW guy. It was turned into complete crap in
and it was
99.
shitty in 1999.
Yeah. And I went off to college because I got out of high school in 97. I went a couple of years to a junior college, and I moved away in 99. And at that point, since it was getting crappy anyway, I just quit watching. Well, in 2019, I start watching again. So I missed a huge chunk of why people fell in love with Finn Balor, and I had to go watch it back on the network. But I tried to find a good picture of his paint. This looks pretty gruesome. And he's another guy, he's not wearing the paint every time, you know? Like I had to make some decisions about, like, I didn't put Cody Rhodes on here because, I mean, Stardust is not like his major character, right? But I decided to go ahead and put Finn Balor on here because the paint is well known with him. And he gets number 3.
Yeah, so the one thing about Balor is his paint got normalized or commercialized rather in WWE. So this is the classic look that you would see Balor in. But when he was the leader of the Bullet Club in New Japan, which, like you said, Terry, you have no point of reference for simply because you
Not at
weren't
all.
watching the product.
Right.
But this was Bullet Club original. He's the OG. He's the first leader of the Bullet Club before AJ Styles comes in. And that was even before Kenny Omega, Jay White, and I forget who they have now, Finley, David Finley. But anyway, Balor used to paint. He would do Carnage. He'd do Rampage, from the Spider-Man. He would do the different patterns and stuff with WWE because, of course, Vince is a merchandising machine. He went with one solitary, similar pattern. You'll always see this as the demon, is what they called him.
Right.
But it wasn't always that way. Balor did a lot of different paint work in Japan that were unique and different for the different matches. When he was, the Prince is what he was, but he would come out as the demon. It was his alter ego. So always something he's used and utilized and played with. Unfortunately, they've gotten away from him in WWE as the the demon, but always part of his presentation.
Awesome. Thanks for the history lesson there. Like me, I had to go look him up a little bit because I heard when I met you guys, I heard a lot about him. I had not watched it. I had to go search for it. And obviously he's made an impact since he's been around. So
yep.
Number 3.
Very good professional wrestler as well.
Number 2, Demolition.
Here comes the
Tag Champs.
Here comes the Smasher.
They are not in the WWE Hall of Fame. They had some legal battles with the WWE about rights to their name, and they were trying to use it in independent wrestling, and they were battling back and forth. And I guess as a result of that, they are not in the Hall of Fame. Excellent tag team.
No, but they're the 3-time tag team champions. They defeated Strikeforce at WrestleMania 4. They would defeat Barbarian and Wardlord at WrestleMania 5. At WrestleMania 6, they regained the tag team titles after losing them to the Colossal Connection in December of the year prior. And the Colossal Connection, of course, is Andre the Giant and Haku. So pretty good company there. 1990 at SummerSlam, they will lose to the Hart Foundation. with the assistance of Demolition, or not Demolition, they are Demolition, Legion of Doom. But yeah, Axe and Smash for 3 years or 4 years from, I mean, really, when they came into the company, it was 87, I want to say, or 88, end of 88. So 88, 89, 90, they dominated WWF. And like I said, it was across 3 WrestleManias. They actually had the longest reign before the New Day for the tag team titles. And that reign was ended by the Brainbusters, also known as Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. Saturday night's main event with the chair shot from hell, the Giant, Bobby Heenan, and all the rest. And of course, when Arn and Tully leave, they drop the titles back to Demolition. And rather than having the WrestleMania match where Demolition would regain the titles with the Brainbusters, they end up losing to the Colossal Connection, and then they get the titles back when Haku kicked Andre and then got hit with the Demolition decapitation for the win in the Sky Dome in front of 60,000 people. So I might know one or two things about Axe and Smash there, Barry Darso and Bill Eadie there, Terry. As you can see, I'm very prepared, arms crossed,
Axe and the
just waiting,
Smasher.
just waiting to cuss a motherfucker out like Nick Saban, my hero. The Saban
Well,
position here, arms crossed, just waiting. Because number one, if it ain't
number one
Sting,
should be obvious at this point.
I
And it
might
is
quit my
Sting.
shit.
And I got 2 pictures of him, and he's had such different personas with face paint. I mean, he's done a lot with it. And I've listed out here that we can see, obviously, NWA World and TV Championships, WCW World, US Tag Team Championships, NWA TV Champ, NWA US Champ. I think I said that twice. TNA World and Tag Team Championships, AEW Tag Team Champs, as he retired with that one. Did All Japan. And he's been all over the place. Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2018, WWE Hall of Fame in 2016. The icon. The man they call Sting.
Nobody better deserving, and somebody who doesn't. He's the Kobe Bryant of the GOAT argument of professional wrestling. In that, I've said this on this program, this program. Who am I? Tony Schiavone. I've said it on the show, Terry, that the debate goes from Jordan to LeBron, and people forget Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
I think the debate goes Hulk and Flair, and people forget Sting. As an example.
He did all of those things that I said with a very short stint in the WWE. Very short.
And that's why he's not as well known as those two who had big runs in the WWE.
Just imagine
but
if
Sting
he had gone earlier in his career when he was, he had the opportunity and just decided not to. He was loyal and
very much
didn't make it, but he was the guy.
And the one regret Sting has in his career is he didn't get to fight the Taker. Not as the Taker. He and Mark Callis did wrestle. Mark Calloway, Mark Callis back in WCW. They did wrestle, but he did not get the opportunity to wrestle as Sting versus the Taker. And he said that's one of his only regrets is he never got to wrestle Mark Calloway as the Undertaker. So pretty good career, Terry. Like I said, and we're talking about Sting. It was his last match. Why not be the number one guy on the list, even though I think it's Goldust? But it's okay. That's fine. Yeah. But like you said, neon paint all the way to you go from neon Sting, surfer Sting, multicolors always matched his outfit. His paint and his outfit always matched. Then you go to the Crow Sting, the Joker Sting, the modern Sting. How many Sting masks do you think have been sold over time?
Tons.
The joke, the Crow Sting masks. The
WCW
sold them for years.
Yeah.
And you missed a great souvenir. But my point was they're going to sell those things forever, like NWO shirts, Austin 316 shirts, And Sting was made by Ric Flair. He was made by Ric Flair in July of 1990 when he finally won the world title at the Great American Bash For those of you playing along, it was actually July the 7th, 1990. Sting was made Baltimore, Maryland, and he never really had these big runs as champion. He never had people don't talk about him the way they talk about Flair or Hogan, but Sting was always in the picture. Even when Hulk came in '94 in WCW, and Sting, the number one babyface, is automatically bumped down the card to the red and yellow Hulk Hogan. He really wasn't. It was 1A and 1B. And Sting was always the franchise for the WCW fans and always will be.
WCW.
WCW. And I was a WCW guy, Terry. So I am all
Me
for
too,
the
sir.
Stinger.
My Meemaw made sure, and here's a little, I don't know, I've said it a million times. I don't think I've said it on the show. When I was a little kid, and I was the perfect age for Vince to pull me in Saturday night's main event,
Yep.
And I said, Meemaw, you need to watch the WWF. It's good. And she said, I don't watch that crap. I watch the NWA. So she was
Meemaw knew
usually
what
right.
was good
She knew
wrestling.
what was good.
That's right.
She hated Tully,
You knew
but
what was good wrestling.
that is what it is.
But that was Meemaw was supposed to hate Tully.
That's right. And she
Meemaw
did.
was supposed to hate Tully.
She believed. And I told,
yes, sir.
I think I told Tony and David Crockett that one time in Chicago. I was telling them about my Meemaw and how she would love that I was meeting them and all that stuff. And I think I told Arn that she would hate that I was actually being nice to him, that kind of thing. Because that's kind of the way it was.
And he loves that shit. Like, he eats it up because for him that means they did their job.
Yeah.
If you hated him, that was the whole point.
What he was trying to do.
At least, yeah. And now he's one of the most revered veterans in professional wrestling. So anyway, there's the top 10, Terry.
10. Yeah, some good names.
Yep.
Not in the order I expected. Didn't expect you to come up with Gold Dust for your top pick. That's for sure. I thought you were going to go Road Warriors for some reason. When you told me that you didn't vote Sting number one, I expected Road Warriors. But
I love Demolition, not the Road Warriors.
That's true. I love the Demolition paint, especially. I mean, if we're talking about the face paint itself, always loved that.
Well, so you're talking about your Meemaw, and I'm gonna talk about my Meemaw. But I didn't call her my Meemaw. I called her my grandmother, my grandma. I've always called her grandma because I was from the Midwest. But my grandma was a giant in politics. And tomorrow is Super Tuesday. And for those of you playing along at home, Super Tuesday is when multiple states join together, or not join together, but all hold the election on the same day for the primary. We're deciding which angry white man we're going to vote for to be the president of the United States here in North Carolina. I guess Nikki Haley's on the ballot, but that's more of a formality. But I told Terry that I would have fun explaining something or telling a story about my grandmother. So my grandmother's name was Mary Bell, and she was a college-educated woman who graduated from the Briarcliff College in 1948. So that was rare in itself that my grandmother had an accounting degree in 1948. And she went to work as a bookkeeper for, what was it called? Bongers or Bomgers, Bomgers. Anyway, it was a retail meat store because this is Northwest Iowa. Iowa beef and all of that. And we'll get to Iowa beef in a second. That's part of the funny story. But my grandmother got interested in politics in 1960 with the election of John F. Kennedy. She used to say, even in her old age, what a handsome man he was. So grandma apparently had a crush on JFK back in the day.
A lot of grandmas did, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, God. She loved Jackie Onassis or Jackie Kennedy, wore the hats, the dresses, the pearls, the whole deal, had the heels. Her hair was made just right. The coat that Jacqueline Kennedy wore, the style. He
Yeah.
had jackets like that. I mean, my grandma was all in for the Kennedys. But anyway, um, my mom said one of her earliest memories. My mom was born in 1960. And my mom said one of her earliest memories was coming home and my grandmother crying watching the TV. Well, it was November 22nd, 1963. Kennedy had been assassinated.
Hmm.
John Kennedy was dead. And of course, Lyndon Johnson becomes president and all that. But anyway, the story about my grandmother, she becomes this really important person in the 5th District of Iowa and become one of the Democratic Party leaders in the state of Iowa. And in 1976, for all of her work, and I'll find it because I have it somewhere in this room, but I'm not sure where it is, and I'm not going to stop because we've already gone a little while on the show. Um, I have a delegate badge that she wore at the 1976 Democratic Convention. She was actually one of the people elected to be an electorate or for the electoral college or the primary in 1976. So she went to the national convention. They picked Jimmy Carter, of course,
Hmm.
1976, coming off of the Watergate scandal. Carter was a logical choice. He ends up winning the presidency. Of course, Reagan says that he's not going to split the Republican Party, and Gerald Ford ends up winning the nomination on that side. Carter wins a pretty highly contested race, but because of the work that my grandmother did, Jimmy Carter won the state of Iowa. Now, as many people may know, Carter's presidency is very much seen as a failure. We had the inflation. You had interest rates at 13%. You had they called it stagflation. You had the interest rates, and then you had the high inflation costing people, and
Gas
then of
prices.
course you had this gas prices, and you had this little thing called the Iranian Revolution that got in the way too, which
Hmm.
led to the Iranian hostage crisis, where for 454 days, 54 American hostages, or 444 days, excuse me, 54 American hostages were held. The day that they were released was the day Ronald Reagan became president of the United States. For those of you
Right.
playing along at home, that's just the way it was. But anyway, my grandmother voted Carter in and all that stuff, worked on his campaign. Well, 1980 comes around, and Carter has had this awful presidency. He has a Secretary of State and a national security advisor that can't get along. They're arguing. Part of the reason that the helicopters fell down into the desert when they went to rescue the hostages was because they sucked sand right into the motor because they couldn't agree on what to use and all this other crap. It was all political, dating back to the Vietnam War, which Carter had nothing to do with, but he was subject to. Well, anyway, 1980 comes along. Ted Kennedy decides he's going to run against Jimmy Carter in the Democratic primary. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but I also have a button that I'm going to find. And I've got it in this room. I'm telling you, I'll find it tomorrow. We'll put it on social media if I can do it because it's my day off. But anyway, the button says we're going to kick his ass. So Ted Kennedy put on a campaign button that we're going to kick his ass talking about Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Well, Iowa Beef Packers was a huge union in Iowa in the 1980s, 90s, before they were bought out by Tyson Chicken, big conglomerate, ranching, farming, whatever. But anyway, Ted Kennedy is supposed to give this speech to Iowa Beef. Now, my grandmother runs this segment of the Democratic Party in this part of the state. So it's her job, even though she's going to vote for Carter again, it's her job to go ahead and vote for or to bring him in so that he can talk to the potential voters. Because the Democrats are actually running, they're allowing Kennedy to run against Carter, who is the incumbent, who is facing Ronald Reagan for the presidency of
Right.
the United States. So they bring Kennedy in. Grandma meets him at the airport, picks his ass up. Her and actually my political science professor from college, who was my advisor, Mike Hand was his name, Hand, like Mr. Hand from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He'd never heard that joke in his life, but they picked this guy up, Kennedy, that is, and he's drunk as fuck. Okay, so he's slurring his speech. He stumbles out of the airplane. They get him in the limousine or the car, whatever it was. They get him to the Iowa beef plant where he's about to give a speech in front of 450 or 500 workers. He stumbles to the podium, sets his hands on the podium, both sides, and for 45 minutes is smooth as butter. Didn't miss a beat, didn't stutter, didn't stumble, didn't slur. He was on point. And he stops giving the speech. They finish the speech. They put him in the car. He resumes drinking. They get him to the airport. He's still drinking. They put his ass back on the plane, and he is as drunk getting back on the plane as he was getting off of it a couple hours earlier. So that's my fun story grandma told me about Ted Kennedy is he showed up drunk, yet somehow managed to deliver a speech. So I grew up in politics is this taboo thing we don't talk about. I grew up in a family that believed that being politically minded and being involved and being a worker on the ground for these people was something that you do. It wasn't something that people do. You did it. So I followed suit with my grandmother, was very much a Democrat for, the early times of my life. Worked for Barack Obama, first campaign, helped turn Nebraska purple, where he actually did win a couple of districts in Nebraska, which was shocking to people because of how conservative that state is. Since then, obviously, I'm much more and I don't care if people know, I'm an independent, libertarian, right leaning, very much interested in seeing Joe Biden go the fuck away. And I think that if we vote Trump in this country and he does absolutely nothing, it's an improvement as to what we have now. That is my opinion. That is not the opinion of this podcast, but do your civic duty and go vote. Um, if you want to vote early and often, I guess you can probably do that too. How 60 million people voted for Donald Trump and Joe Biden, respectively, in 2020 during a pandemic. With a bachelor's degree in political science and history and a master's degree in history, I have no fucking idea how that happened. An incumbent election during a pandemic, no way 160 million people voted. Again, that is my opinion, not the opinion of this podcast. But the message is go vote, be civic minded, do your duty. Remember, fuck the government, which means you get to pick them. If you don't vote, you don't get a say and you don't get to bitch about it either. So most of the time, national politics doesn't affect us as much as we like to think it does. Pay attention to who is in your county and who is in your state because they will ultimately have far more impact on you than whoever the hell is living at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, January the 20th, 2025. And like I said, that's where I'm at on it. I love it. I love talking politics with people. My father is deceased. I will be hopping on the Trump train because fuck Joe Biden and fuck Kamala Harris. And again, that is not the opinion of this podcast. That is my opinion. Because Terry doesn't, I don't speak for Terry. And I, like I said, I don't have a problem having this discussion with anybody. I know I say it outlandishly, but I promise you, like Nebraska football, professional wrestling, or anything else, if you want to have a civilized discussion with me about it, I can back up anything that I've just said.
So what is
give you
the
an
opinion
explanation
of this podcast is there's a lot of people in the world that wish they could do what we have the opportunity to do tomorrow. So remember that when you think about that opportunity and go cast your vote for what your conscience is. Thank you, sir, for giving your opinion on that.
You know, I'm not shy.
I'm
not shy. Yeah.
So,
but I will find that memorabilia because the one thing too, before we close down, The one thing that I have that I treasure more than anything, because I love my grandmother. I love her. She was the second woman in my life I loved. The first, of course, being my mama. And I have sisters. I love them too. But my grandma was such an influence on me. And she'd probably roll over in her grave if she knew I was voting for Trump. So don't tell her. But anyway, um, I have letters Jimmy Carter wrote her when she got sick and had a stroke. The president of the United States wrote my grandmother handwritten letters. And I have those. I treasure those. I've read those. Um, so it's not all bad. It's not all ugly. People are people. I think Jimmy Carter was probably one of the greatest men to ever be president. I just don't think he was a good president. And like I said, the fact that he wrote my grandmother's family letters knowing that she was sick and had a stroke and all this stuff, he didn't have to do that. He absolutely didn't have to do that. So like that medallion that she has, Terry, from the 76 convention and the we're going to kick his ass button, I have it all together in a box. I'm just not sure what box it's in. But I will find it and I'll send you some pictures and we'll post it on social because like I said, when you have handwritten letters to your grandmother from the president of the United States, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So
it is.
That was what I wanted to say before we move on because I know we've been on a while. We got a special topic.
We got a couple
that
of
was
things
the point
left,
of it all.
But
yeah.
This one's a special topic this week. And we don't know all the details. I'm a details guy. I go, what are the details over and over
God
again?
bless.
And you're like, just let us wing it. But we've been in some discussions with some friends from a couple of other podcasts. I did ask for some details today before I stated any of this, and nobody answered in the text messages. So if I say something wrong, that's y'all's fault. I asked. But anyway, we've been in discussions with both the Filter Free Popcast and Talking Wrestling with Pondwater Dave. The three shows are going to come together to some degree on Patreon, create some new content. They did tag us in a tweet like a month ago stating something like this. We thought that was a little early, but hey, we're making it public now, right? But the
if
three
anything,
shows,
the boys over at FFP are premature. We all know that. Lord have mercy.
So the three shows are going to stay primarily the same as they are. If you listen to this, you'll still be able to listen to it the same way you do. We're going to add this show into the Patreon. They're going to add their shows into the Patreon. They're going to continue to do their shows like they do. But we've got an exciting opportunity ahead to come up with some new ideas, do some shows with different people that from different shows. We got 9 people total that we can mix and match on different topics. Who knows?
Just the host. That doesn't even count the producers. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So what's a producer? What are you talking about?
Well, you do double duty because as Terry said, he's the detail guy, and as I tell y'all, let her rip, Tater Chip. Here we are. Right.
So and we're going to stated this multiple times. You say, Terry, we've got to make the show shorter, and then you go on a 30-minute monologue.
It's a fact. It's a fact. But here's the thing: we're going to get merchandise. I had a great shirt idea. We need your feedback on it. Terry, obviously, God-fearing man. He's Catholic. Ate meat on Friday. And he was telling us all about it. It was a biscuit. It was a great biscuit, blah, blah, blah. So my smart ass says, Terry, Jesus doesn't give a fuck if you ate a biscuit during Lent. And he doesn't think that would be a great shirt. So I need everybody to tell Terry he's wrong, that Jesus doesn't care that he ate a biscuit.
Well, there's a couple of
Lent.
those words together on a shirt I might balk at, but anyway.
Jesus doesn't care. We don't have to say gave a fuck, but I did. Because the Lord knows me. He made me. He created me. And he knows what I'm about to say, even if I don't. So, no, I'm really pumped for this.
Yeah.
Moving on, because we're going to do the merchandise and stuff together. We've got a bunch of good friends. We're not professional podcasters. We all have real jobs.
That means
real
we
lives,
don't make money.
Children. I've got dogs. This isn't about making money. It's about having a good time. And I've said that about this podcast, that the first time that it seems like this is a job, I'm out. Terry knows. Terry knows if this becomes a job, I'm out. So that's why we have a good time. That's why I talk like an idiot. I get everybody fired up. That awful Justin Davis going to send me hate tweets about my Trump monologue later, and that's okay. I expect that from him
Well, we can
because
count on him voting on our polls. That is one thing
we can
I'll
count
say
on him
about
voting on
Justin.
our polls because he believes in the civic duty. But the other thing is, he and I, he and I can have a civil discourse because that's what you do. It would be a lot of fun to remove politics from it. He's a Bret Hart fan, and I think Bret Hart sucks. So it would be a lot of fun for Terry to be the moderator between the two of us
Well, how
and
about
have to play
this?
referee.
I don't like Bret Hart, and I don't like Shawn Michaels. So y'all can have both of those guys and take them.
But my
But
point
anyway,
is, to Terry's point, there's such a combination of us. We're
yeah.
going to do some bonus content. We're going to be rolling this out for WrestleMania week, is what it sounded like. Do not hold us to that because these folks are as disorganized as I am, and Terry is the only planner in this crowd. That's all I'm saying. The only well, other than the
Oh, boy.
producers, all three,
Yeah.
all three of you are the planners. That's the thing. All the talent, we're just like, yeah, whatever. We're here,
guess,
man.
'cause
Let's roll.
I get about the same response from the big group I get from the small group. It's like, hey, blah, 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 blah,
Correct.
blah.
And we're
Do
like, yeah,
whatever
whatever.
you want.
Exactly. Let it rip, Tater Chip. Terry had no idea where I was going with my grandma story either, by the way. That's what makes this fun because I have lived a fun life. Sometimes things aren't fun. There's stuff that's happened in my life we'll talk about down the road that sucked. Because everybody deals with those types of tragedies and maybe y'all can get something out of it. But like I said, my grandmother knew Jimmy Carter on a first name basis, and that's badass. Nobody would have known that if I hadn't told this story. And we have 7 other people that have stories similar to that we get to share and talk about. Pondwater Dave, as an example, if y'all haven't heard his show, can tell you every single thing you want to hear about the Von Erichs and World Class Championship Wrestling. What did he say, Terry? From 1982 forward, he was at basically every single
Was it
show
82? I thought he
in
was older
Dallas.
than that. I don't know.
But yeah, well, he's old as shit. But it's 82, I think. But no, seriously, he was an eyewitness
Yeah,
to everything that
right
happened from the Von Erichs feud to the Freebirds. Obviously, all the deaths in the family, Fritz losing the territory,
Yeah.
the whole thing. Plus, I don't know about Terry, but I find Pondwater to be highly entertaining. And
Absolutely.
while we're plugging our friends, check out Filter Free Popcast. Understand that it was a shit show, meaning what they were watching. And TJ Stevens, the host of the show, says he's never laughed more in his life because it was that god awful. So they've watched a lot of bad wrestling over there, so it must have been pretty good. Second thing, tomorrow night, looks like Amy, our Queen Amy of the Pondwater Dave show, is going to get her ass kicked by some guest. Is that what he's threatening, Terry? Is
He
that guy
said
threatening
canceled. I don't know
our
if he said
Amy?
ass kicked. He did say canceled.
Is he going to cancel
He
her?
called her
He can't do
stupid.
that.
Yeah.
He did call her stupid. I saw that. But the hero of the people, Aaron Eagle, will be on talking wrestling, rather, with Pondwater Dave. And not
And that's
friends.
on Tuesday.
Just
He
talking
said
wrestling.
tomorrow.
That's on Tuesday.
It's hard when you're listening to a podcast to know what day it is sometimes. So that'll be
so that's gonna
Tuesday.
drop Tuesday, March 5th. And while I get tangential, everybody take a drink of vodka tomorrow. The Generalissimo Stalin died March the 5th, 1953. In a fun story, Terry, real briefly, because you love when I do this. I don't prepare him for this, folks. 1953, Stalin has a stroke, falls ill, and his secret police, the head of the secret police, the Cheka, the NKVD, the KGB at the time, I guess it was in 53, his name is Beria. And he goes to check on Stalin. He's got to talk to him about some stuff, probably some people they're torturing or killing in the gulag or whatever. But anyway, he goes to talk to him. Stalin's had this stroke. And he opens the door. He sees he's laying there. And he closes the door. And he tells the guards, don't let anyone bother the Generalissimo. He's ill. He's falling, or he's not ill. He's sleeping. Leave him be. Don't let him. So he knew that he was sick, but because he wanted to be the next Generalissimo and the head of the Politburo there in the Soviet Union, he thought if Stalin died, he'd be this guy in the spot.
Yeah.
Well, Nikita Khrushchev and Leonid Brezhnev had something to say about that, and Stalin died the next day. They buried him. Russian politics ensues. Beria ends up, ironically enough, killed in the basement of the KGB headquarters, the same place he had sent thousands of people to their own executions, thinking that he was going to be able to take the place of the only man that allowed him to live because everybody else in the Soviet Union hated him. And that's the thing you can learn on the TNA podcast when you think I'm just a fucking idiot. I do have a graduate degree in European history.
So let me tell you something that's difficult. At one point, when I uploaded shows to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I knew how to categorize it. That has been thrown right out the window.
We don't even know what we're going to talk about until we hit the record button.
Show. Anyway, as we do every week, and let's keep this one clean because we're going to talk about a very young, positive person in the world here. Yeah, that's you. I'm talking to you. Keep it clean this time, sir. And you're seeing the shirt I'm wearing. This week's champ of the week, Jordan Moore and the Moore family. They do Jordan's Summer Shirt Project, and they have these Be Kind to Everyone shirts. And you know, sir, I am very critical of the way T-shirts fit. We had this discussion yesterday. I'm not going to say which T-shirts that I don't like. We're not going there. But I like a good T-shirt. I like it to fit good. I like it to feel good. And I've bought multiple T-shirts from them, and they always feel great. They fit great. Good material. It doesn't fade. I've worn this over and over again. You can see how good it looks, right?
It looks very good.
It does.
In 4K.
It does.
Yes.
Exactly. Sure. Well, we'll see what it's like after we upload it, but you know, that's what it is. So this is you can go to bekindtoeveryone.com, and I put a little bit of a summary of their story on our notes. Jordan, she's a young lady. She has autism. She went several years at the start of her life without speaking and had to go through a lot of treatment to get to the point where she can speak. Her mother is on social media with her and does a lot with her. If you find them, you can follow them, and they do great videos. Her parents were concerned about her opportunities as she became an adult. So obviously that's something that is a concern with children like this. They wanted to create an opportunity for her, and they did so in 2018. They created Jordan's Summer Shirt Project, and it took off, and it became a family business. And Jordan herself does a lot of the packaging of the shirts. She bundles them up and puts them in the packaging, and there's some other things in there that she does. She's been featured on several news outlets. CBS News had a thing on her, different publications. And I'm just saying, this is a great thing, a great follow on multiple social medias. Their product is good. It's a great message to be kind to everyone. Obviously, they're focused mostly on autism. It's got the little puzzle piece here and the kind that dots the I. Check out the website, bekindtoeveryone.com. This is a good family. They deserve a shout out, and Jordan is our champ of the week.
Like people with heart disease, cancer, whatever, you know someone who's autistic and may be related to one, love one, care for one.
That's right.
I love the Be Kind message. I know people are like, what the hell is this guy talking about? He's loved the Be Kind message. I am a character and a half, as everybody knows. But there are segments of the population that get an automatic pass with me regardless. And the crowd that is on the spectrum is on that list. And I have a nephew who was put on the spectrum, although I don't know that he's completely on the spectrum. At one point it was Asperger's, and then I don't know if it still is or not. He's 16 at this point. Very high functioning, highly intelligent, a little bit obsessive, those sort of things. You learn to deal with them. You learn to love them. As people can tell you, those people that have been touched with autism in any severity have a special gift or talent that they were given that they do better than just about anybody. I'm sure that's the case with Jordan. I actually don't know this person. I know one of my very best friends has a son who knows perfect pitch, knows perfect pitch to the note, to the octave, to the scale. It's an incredible talent. The memory, I mean, people associate a lot of times autism with Rain Man. The fact that Rain Man could count cards and that sort of thing. Those are the type of mental gifts they have because their minds work completely different than the rest of us. Um, Special people, very, very, very special people, and a very, very nice program. And if Terry, honestly, guys, tells you that the shirt is high quality, I promise you it is because because it does matter to him, and that means these folks are doing a good job, and it really does because I am the guy that told him yesterday, well, I just wear it to the gym. I'd never wear that shirt in public, but I'll wear it to the gym. And I guess I'm in public at the gym, but my point is I'll sweat on it, it'll get dirty, it'll eventually get worn out, and I throw it in the trash can and I put on another shirt. That's not the case with this high quality product, that sort of thing. And no, they're not a sponsor, but we're sponsoring them because we do believe in the cause. Like Terry's talking about transitioning from being a child and an educated child, going through school and that sort of stuff, the school years, to being an adult is very difficult when you don't have autism. So what these people are doing is a great thing because they found something that she can do. She can make a living, she can build on, and she can be a productive member of society. Because quite frankly, the world is hard enough and people are cruel enough without being on the spectrum. So I say it every week. I'm a dickhead, but I'm your dickhead. And, that's how I feel about all of my people. And that would include this sort of thing. Stop it. I was being clean.
Part before that. Yeah, I'll keep that in the longer version of the show, but that won't.
Keep it in the longer version. Yeah. Well,
part. Yeah. But thank you, sir. You are correct.
I love him so much for taking this like that. Thank you, Terry.
And
don't step
honestly,
on me.
We love. We've said positive a lot. It hasn't always been positive when it's the champ of the week. Some of the champs of the week have been fighting very negative things.
This is very positive.
There's nothing, but this is a very positive one, and we're really glad to end the show this way. This is episode 26 of our variety show, apparently. And I thank you for being here with me for 3 hours, it seems like this time, because you wouldn't shut up. Is that what it was?
Could be an eternity for all that matters.
But anyway, we had fun. We're going to keep having fun. Thank you for listening. If you made it this far, we hope you did. Love your people. Tell them you love them. I think I'm going to end the show that way every week.
Make it weird is another shirt coming to TNA Top 10.
All right. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Have a good week.
Later.